All right, for everybody that's on, thank you so much for joining. We'll be getting started here in just a few more minutes. While we're waiting for everybody to jump on, because we know sometimes people just need a little bit of extra time and space to get situated, we do have a question, and I'm going to go ahead and post it up here. Have you ever experienced a somatic breathwork session? You can click yes, no, and I'm sure there's a lot of new people on here that have never even heard of somatic breathwork, which this is wonderful. And thank you so much for being here, because we will be discussing all things somatic wellness over the next 3 days. Yeah, thank you so much. Just go ahead and for everybody that's recently jumped on, again, just now's a good time to use the restroom, grab a pen and paper. And in about 5 minutes, I'm going to be bringing on the founder of Somatic Breathwork, Steven Jaggers. And we're going to dive right in. We have a lot to cover. So thank you so much again for jumping on. And if you are new to here, please again, just cast your vote if you've ever participated in a session or not. And we look forward to speaking with you in just a bit. All right, I'm going to go ahead and show everybody the answers. And the reason we like to ask these questions, if you've ever experienced a session or not, is just to let everybody know where we're at on this workshop in terms of having ever received one, having never received one. And that being the case, there is one more question I'd like to ask, and it's, have you ever participated in one of our 3-day workshops? And you can put yes or no. And if you have, oh, wow, I love all the newcomers. This is amazing. Wonderful. Wow, that's super exciting. If you have experienced one of our 3-day workshops, please, let everybody or help everybody feel welcomed here. We are all about community and connection. And please just welcome everybody. Maybe share what you maybe enjoyed about the last 3-day workshop that we did in the chat. We appreciate you all for returning again and sharing your time with us. It's incredible that you're here again. So thank you. New to workshops and sessions, Tanya, thank you so much for coming. We appreciate you. All right, maybe just a couple more minutes and then Jaggers will come on. He'll kick his video on and we'll get started. Kara, hello. This is your first uninterrupted by other things. Yeah, we all have busy schedules. So thank you for joining, Kara, all the way from Canada. Sarah, yes, I also did a session led by Jaggers from Somatic. Amazing. Well, for those of you that are new, on day 3, we will be doing a live session. So we strongly encourage that you are here for that session. The live sessions, when we do Somatiq Breathwork sessions, there is no replay or recordings of these live sessions. And we do that just to respect all of the participants. So if you've never received a session, we strongly encourage you stick around. First time, amazing. Love the pooch. Oh, can you see her? That's Millie the meatball. For anybody who has been on before or knows Somatic or follows us, welcome. The elusive house hippo. She brings a lot of joy, that's for sure. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and showcase this as well. A lot of new people on. This is really exciting. A lot of new participants. When Jaggers gets going and teaching about this, he really likes to, drive the point home that this is information that we just didn't learn in school. And I know he'll cover that. And it couldn't be further, from the truth, is that this is all new information to many people. So very excited that you're here. Yes, we're excited too, Brianne. Amazing. Has anybody here, maybe you could just you can put it in the comment. You don't have to, it's not a poll or anything. Have you done any type of breath work like Ujjayi or pranayama, Wim Hof, anything like that? If so, maybe just throw it in there. Yes. Okay. Somatic breathwork is certainly different, and we'll cover on how it's different. Sometimes people jump on here and they're like, "Oh yeah, I do Kundalini," and yeah, Kundalini yoga is great. Not the same. You certainly can have a somatic experience through Kundalini yoga, or a lot of people, ask, what's the difference between this and Wim Hof? Wim Hof is a phenomenal practice. I'm certified in Wim Hof myself. Rebirthing has been around for a long time. But when it comes to some of the differences, and I won't expand too far into this because we'll cover it, Wim Hof is it's a wonderful practice. It's very sensational. But really, when I think of Wim Hof, I think of Wim Hof as a practice to strengthen mental dexterity, to create resilience, to endure the hard thing, right? The ice bath, the famous ice bath, right? And that's not necessarily what somatic breathwork is about. We're not about, you got to do this to build resilience for the hard thing that's going to come. Really, somatic breathwork is about helping individuals get out of their mind and into their body. That is one of our primary focuses. If anybody here, maybe you can put in the comment yes or no, has anybody ever experienced what may be referred to as shamanic breathwork or holotropic breathwork? Yes, many people. Yeah, myself included, I have. And it's a beautiful practice. It's very special. It certainly is. But my experience with shamanic breath work is it's long. It's you're for a long time, and you oftentimes have an out of body experience. And that again is not necessarily our goal here. All right, Jaggers, welcome, brother. Go ahead and give us some audio. Let's see if we can hear you okay.
Hello, everyone. Welcome.
Wonderful.
Welcome.
All right. Can everybody hear Steven Jaggers all right? Just thumbs up or yes. Wonderful. Okay, excellent. Well, I know we'll continue to have quite a few more people jumping in. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to ask in the comments. Myself, we have Charlotte and Jessica, some of our somatic mentors. We're here to assist you. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you, Jaggers. Thank you, brother.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Neems. Welcome everyone. I truly love these workshops so much. Thank you for sharing where you're coming from and participating in the polls. It's so nice to be able to see, first off, how many newcomers we have, and then also for all of you that are continuing to join in with us. I really appreciate it. Like Nadeem said, this a big part of our mission here at Somatic is to, I'm going to pin myself here. Let's see. That's better. A big part of our mission is to just educate the world on somatics, on breath work, on the ability to regulate your nervous system and what that actually means, how much the mind and body is connected, and we have to address both. But so I'm going to give you a little bit of overview on what these 3 days will consist of, and then we will dive in. But first, I want to share a little story, something that happened, about a week or two ago, that just deeply reminds me of why we do this work, and a lot of the practitioners on here will understand. Now, I was invited to go to a music studio and record, a couple weeks ago. And for those of you that know me, music's always been a massive thing for my own expression, my ability to X the pressure, to channel my own stressors into an art form, right? That's what life is about, is figuring out your own unique ways of expression. And so I show up at this music studio, and there's a woman there that recognizes me, and she's like, "God, you look so familiar. Where do I know you from?" And I'm like, "Maybe Somatiq Breathwork, perhaps." And she's taken back and literally almost starts tearing up. And she says to me, "I actually did a session with you about a year and a half ago, and I was in the deepest depression of my life. And during that session, I, of course, had a lot of emotional release. But once I had that release, I saw so clearly that I needed to be singing, that was my route of expression, was singing." And I proceeded to sit back and watch this woman record her album and sing from the depths of her soul. And it truly just brought tears to my eyes to be able to witness that. And there is truly no greater feeling than to be able to help people remember their inner artist, right? And for me, what that means is art is just a way of stripping back all of the layers to get to the deepest part of your soul. And how can you share that with the world? That's what we're all craving, right? And it's a lot of the traumas and stressors and the things that we've gone through that get stored in the body that block us from being able to show up fully from that deep artistic expression and that soul-led expression. So yeah, I figured I'd share that with you, and it was definitely a powerful moment. So let me just give you an overview on how these 3 days are going to go, and then we will dive in for today. So today we're going to be discussing somatics. If you've joined us before, it might be a lot of similar information, but I encourage you to stay on, because the more you hear it, the more it might actually land, and you might have new perspectives on things. So today will be a lot around somatics. What is somatics? What is this lens that we're viewing the world from a somatic place? And we'll get into understanding the mind-body connection, trauma, stress, those sorts of things. Tomorrow will be all things around breath work, right? We are Somatiq Breathwork. So day one is going to be all about somatics. Day 2 is going to be all about understanding the nervous system and the differences between, like Nadim was talking about, and as I saw a lot of you share on here, just wondering about the different types of breath work. So I'll try to explain the differences. And then day 3, we are going to be leading you through a full somatic breathwork session. So very excited to have you all on. So before we begin, I'll take just like a minute or two break. Go ahead and get a journal, a notepad, or if you just want to sit back and receive, get yourself some tea, snacks. Day 1 and day 2 will be recorded, and we will be sharing that with you. Day 3, the session, we are not able to replay it. So yeah. And yeah, I'm going to take just a moment break. I'm going to bring up the curriculum, and we will dive in for today.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jaggers. For everybody new who's jumped on, welcome again. Please do share where you are located. We love connection and community. And yeah, Zoom is obviously giving you the cue as well. If you have any questions throughout the workshop, let's see, it looks like I froze a little bit. If you have any questions throughout the workshop, you can of course put them in the Q&A and we will address them throughout the workshop. And if we don't, we will open up space at the end. Charlotte and Jessica, some of the somatic mentors are on here. They'll be assisting with any questions that you might have. If you're having any issues with audio or anything, just be sure to let us know and we'll of course help you out. Aloha, good to see you. Thank you for being here. And for everybody new that's on here, I saw a couple questions of, is this being recorded? Yes, it is being recorded, but so you know, it is only recording the host, which is myself and Jaggers. No participants are being recorded. The replays will be sent out maybe a couple days after the training or after the workshop. We do our best to get them uploaded within 24 hours on the replay page, which of course we'll send that out. But our team works really hard around the clock when we do these workshops. So a little space and grace is completely appreciated. How long should you set aside for day 3? I work, but need to make arrangements to attend live. Yeah. Day 3, you're going to want at least 90 minutes, maybe 90 minutes to 2 hours max. The session itself on day 3 will be approximately an hour. Now, if this is your first time on one of our workshops, we like to give a little space for everybody to join in the beginning. So we usually get going around 1:15, 1:20, which is about this time. As you can see, we're going to be kicking off here in just a few minutes. Today and tomorrow is going to take about an hour and 15 minutes. We encourage you to stay to the end. We will be doing some activities throughout as well. This is a lot of information. So Jaggers will open up with teaching and instructing, and we'll move into some somatic practice activities. So I'm going to hand it back over and I'm going to put you on as a spotlight.
Thank you, sir.
You bet.
All right. Well, let's see. I'm going to share my screen here. Can you all see this here? Let me see. I'm going to pull up the chat just so I can keep an eye on the chat. Definitely make sure you save your questions. I'll try to stay on at the end to answer as many questions as possible. I made kind of an executive decision here. This is something that I have not taught in this 3-day workshop, but I think it's just really important to understand given the times that we are in right now, and everybody can use a little bit more of it. So I'm actually going to kick this workshop off with talking about what is holding space. And, if you are working with anyone, you are holding space for them. And even if you're not a practitioner, these concepts are important to understand. if we all, I think at the depths of our core, we want to help people. And a lot of the times we don't actually know what is helping somebody. And especially we live in quite stressful times right now. So let's just kick this off with one of my favorite things to talk about is this concept of holding space. Truly, that term is thrown around a lot, and a lot of people don't necessarily know or have a definition behind it. What does it mean to hold space for somebody? And so let's go ahead and define it. And I think that these understandings will really impact you, really give you a lens on how to hold space for other people. So let's back up a little bit. Let's talk about space in general. Space allows the digestion of your experiences. We live in a world right now where we are so busy. We have constant distractions, marketing that's being thrown at us. We're taking in more information than our grandparents took in probably throughout their whole lives. We have social media. We have so much information being fed to us all of the time. And if you were to be able to see how much information and experiences that you are holding on to that you actually have not digested, well, you'd be holding on to a lot. We only have so much capacity. We only have so much time in our life. We only have so much space. And it is so important that you as a human have periods of space to allow yourself to digest your experiences, your information. And that is what somatic breathwork is. It's an opportunity to digest some of the emotions that you haven't let yourself feel, some of the mental information that you haven't let yourself digest. For me, I took, now, for those of you that don't have a background on me, I was a neuromuscular therapist. I was an instructor at a well-known holistic school. I was a trainer. I really worked a lot with aligning people's bodies. And I came to realize how much of our emotional state actually affected our posture and the way that we carry ourselves and our mindset out in the world. And so I needed, after years of study, I needed almost 2 years of taking space. I moved to Sedona. I lived out in nature. I had zero distractions. And I swear that time of taking those 2 years off and not reading any books, not listening to more podcasts, not studying more, and just allowing what I had already done to digest, absorb, and assimilate. And I know that is actually what has created somatic breathwork. For any of you that are trying to create something or teach, really it's the process of digestion and distilling all of the information that you've taken in to its simplest essence is one of the most important things that you can do. And that's the way that you will make change in the world, because that's the way you will be able to put it in simple context for other people to understand. So now that we have an understanding of space in general, I'll give you another example. What is like the original way to cleanse your system? That's even in the Bible. There's so many different fads around cleanses and diets and all these different things, but the original way to cleanse your system was to actually take space, which means to fast, which is just don't put anything else in your body. Let your body, the intelligence of your body, do what it knows how to do. It knows how to repair itself. It knows how to heal on a cellular level. It knows how to digest your food. And so space allows our body to do what it needs to do. And when we are holding space for somebody, we are creating a space for someone to digest their experiences and their emotions. And really, the short definition of holding space is to create a space for someone else to take up space. Most of us have never felt like we have had an opportunity to fully take up space with our expression. I'm curious how many of you grew up in a place where, you were told to sit down, shut up, be quiet, right? Mostly all of us were with the given structure of our school system. We as children, we're such expressive beings, and we're told to sit down and shut up and sit in a desk for 8 hours. So when you are holding space, you're creating a space for someone to take up space. You're not putting your own agenda, your own things into the space onto somebody. So let's go over the definition of holding space. My definition is having developed the ability to experience the fullest capacity of whatever's happening in the present moment through witness consciousness, and not being reactively involved, but being response able. So that's obviously a lot of words, and let's actually go ahead and define the words inside of it. If you have studied with me before, if you heard me speak, it's so important for us to define words, and that's what we're doing right now, is defining holding space. We're going to get to somatics. We're going to define somatics. We're going to define trauma. And like, Socrates said, wisdom begins at the definition of terms. It's so important to define our language. And so let's break this down here. Witness consciousness. What does it mean to be in witness consciousness? And that is through our own practices, such as somatic breath work, establishing enough inner space, enough stillness within yourself, a higher state of coherence within yourself, your own alignment, so that the process taking place in front of you can actually be held in its full capacity. Most of us don't have enough inner space to actually be present with somebody. Presence is such a deep gift, and most of us actually don't experience people being present with us because we have so much stuff going on all the time. I can't be fully present with you in a moment if I'm still thinking about what I need to get done for work, if I'm still thinking about the argument that I had this morning, if I haven't had space to digest my past experiences. It's really hard to be fully present with somebody. And if you've studied somatics at all, in the book, The Body Keeps the Score, Bessel van der Kolk, one of his most famous quotes is that healing happens in the presence of an empathetic witness. Most of our traumas happen from other people. And so our healing happens in the presence of an empathetic witness, and we need more empathetic witnesses in the world right now. So we're obviously going over the definitions of these, but it's another thing to embody this, and I'll talk about what the opposite is. But so let's talk a little bit about nervous system coherence. You could also call this congruence. A nervous system that is coherent, that is in truth with itself, it feels really good to be in the presence of somebody who's in coherence. Coherence means that your thoughts and your words and your actions are all saying the same thing. Your nervous system is picking up on everything around you. And when you are around somebody that's thinking one thing, they're saying another thing, and their actions are saying something completely different, well, their nervous system is not in congruence. They're not in truth. And the sensitivity of your nervous system is going to pick up on that. And it does not feel good to be around people that are not in congruence. And so it's so important for yourself to start to try to get to a state of coherence as much as you can. When your body is telling you something, there's so much intelligence in your body. When your body is saying something, listening to it, right? Developing that deep relationship to it, speaking from that place, speaking your truth, no matter if you think it might actually hurt somebody. When your thoughts, words, and actions are all in alignment, it will feel really good to be around you. It becomes magnetic, truly. That's how people talk about manifestation. really, I think that's a byproduct of being coherent with yourself. You will start to attract all of the people, places, and things when you are operating and moving from that place. And so being able to be in that witness consciousness, that state of alignment, so that you can actually take in the full capacity of whatever's happening in front of you, especially being with another human, and not being reactive, but being response able. So these are workbook pages from the book, and I'm just going over a couple of these. So yeah, basically just giving this to you guys. I hope you're enjoying it so far. So let's talk about reactivity. So holding space is having developed the ability to be in alignment with yourself and not be reactive, but be response able. Reactivity, it truly, what that is this fix it mentality. Most of us, we're great helpers. You're probably on this this live today because you have a desire to help other people. And let me know if that's true or if that's not true. I think at our core essence, we all realize that we're all connected and we do want to help other people. But a lot of the times we don't know what's actually helping somebody. When you are reactive to somebody, you are putting your own agendas on another person and what you think is best for them. And that's the opposite of holding space. Most people have experienced this, and you've probably experienced this from other people, or maybe you've done this to people as well, especially your family. As we move in, I decided to talk about this because we're moving into holiday season, and it's especially hard to not try to fix your family members, right? And also to not try to fix yourself. It's a direct pressure. We are holding a space for someone to express, for someone to take up space. And when I'm in my head and I start to think I know what's best for this person, well, I've actually just put more pressure on their space. We actually don't know what's fully helping somebody. And I'll give you an example. One of the examples that I use all of the time is, say someone's crying or someone's having an emotional release or going through something really hard. Most of us, we want to run over to that person and we want to say, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay, right? But really what we're doing is we're saying, no, stop. I don't want you to cry. And it's coming from a well-intentioned place. We don't want other people to feel pain. We don't want other people to, feel some of the negative emotions. But we have all signed up for this human experience, and part of this human experience is feeling the lows and the highs. And when we stop somebody from feeling, we stop their process. And really what we're saying is, I'd rather you just be numb right now. I don't want you to feel it. And so the opposite of that, especially as a practitioner or a parent even, is to go over to that person and say, it's okay to let yourself feel. And I'll be here with you through that. No judgment. Whatever you're going through, you can go through that, but I'll be here with you. It sounds like such a simple shift, but so many of us try to fix everyone around us and we don't actually let them go through their humanness. I've done that so much. And as you can see this little circle down here, when we're holding space for someone, we're creating a space for them to express. And I'll talk about why that expression is so important. And listen, y'all, I know this is, you might have signed up for this because it's a breathwork class. This is beyond breathwork. This is way beyond breathwork. Breath is the driving force. It's the pump. But really this is honestly about how to human 101. I've thought about changing it to this. So you can see this little circle down here. We're creating a space for someone to express. And when we're trying to fix somebody, and I've done this to my mom so much, right? My mom struggled with anxiety and depression her whole life. And I'm like, hey, mom, you should try this. Let's get you to like do a cleanse, or let's get you to go to the gym, or let's get you to drink more water, or just little things, right? But what that's doing is that's putting more pressure on her. And so when we are trying to fix somebody, we're putting more pressure and we're creating the opposing force. We're creating the opposing force that really what we're saying is there's actually something wrong with you and you're broken and you need to be fixed. I'll tell you what, as a practitioner in the helping profession, it's a tremendous amount of pressure on yourself to try to fix people. Because when you are trying to fix somebody else, you're creating the opposing force. And really what you're saying to them is that they're broken and something's wrong with them. And no one is broken. No human is broken. As we move into the next chapters, you will find out that a lot of our trauma and our defense systems are probably the most intelligent thing our body knew how to do and probably helped us in a lot of ways. And so we're just creating a space, honoring the innate intelligence in someone's body for them to take up space. And they probably never felt that before in their life. And it's a really powerful gift to be able to create that for somebody. And so what's the opposite of reactivity or this fix-it mentality is the ability to be response-able. Now, if you're anything like me, you hear the word responsible and you think, wow, okay, that means adulting, right? But responsibility means that you actually have choice. You think about the Carl Jung quote, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will control your life and you will call it fate. The opposite of fate is actually choice. It's actually become responsible. You are the creator of your life. And when you are reactive, when you're trying to fix somebody, you're operating off of your patterns and you actually don't have choice, and your life will start to be laid out for you. And then you'll, wake up 20 years later on down the line and be like, why am I creating a life that's not in alignment for me? Because you didn't have the ability to respond. And so when you're working with somebody, becoming responsible, or when you're just in relationships to anyone in your life, becoming responsible means you have the ability to respond, means that there's space in between something happens and there's space for me to go inside to myself and actually have choice on how I should respond. And so responsibility is the ability to have awareness, to be able to develop your sensing skills, awareness of minute details and energy fluctuation within other people, and respond in a way that's in alignment. So I know this might be over some of your heads, but yeah, let me go back and now let's say this definition, and let's see if now that we've defined all of the different parts, maybe it lands a little bit differently for you. So when you are holding space for someone, it means that you have developed the ability to take in the full capacity, to be fully present with somebody while you're aligned and you're in witness consciousness, and not being reactive to them, but being responsible. So let me know, definitely write down questions on this, and I'll answer some questions at the end. We are going to go into let's go ahead and define somatics next. Response able. I love it. Right? We're all becoming response able adults here. So let's define, what does somatic actually mean? What does somatic mean? So somatic comes from, the root word is soma, and it comes from ancient Greece, and it's, commonly translated as the body. From a Western perspective, when you look at somatic psychology, or you study some of Peter Levine's work, so somatics means of the body and how it's affecting your mind, of the body in relation to the mind. But the thing that was not translated is that the Greeks didn't distinguish between your mind, your body, your spirit. What somatic truly means is your living wholeness, and how they are all affected, how they all affect each other. whether it's your spirit, your emotions, your instincts, your body, they're all connected, and we cannot bypass our wholeness. Now, for me, I originally when I was going to school in the beginning, I wanted to study addiction psychology because my parents struggled with a lot of addiction issues. And I also wanted to study physical therapy because I was fascinated by the body. And unfortunately, in the world that we live in a world that is so specialized that we miss the connection between. And so I'm so thankful to have found this route, because really the magic happens in how are these connected and how are these affecting each other. And your soma, really what it means is your living wholeness of your being. Soma encompasses the full experience of what it means to be human. We are more than just mechanical physical bodies. We have a spiritual aspect of ourselves, we have a mental aspect, and we have an emotional aspect, and they all are affecting each other. And I'm going to take you through a little somatic awareness exercise later on. But somatics really focuses on our senses, our sensations, and our sensitivity. If you think about it, you were born into the world with so many different senses. Your first sense that you develop as a child is touch. Hopefully, the first sense that you felt was the touch of your mother. But we were born into the world so sensitive. And that's another word that we need to kind of define: sensitivity. Sensitivity in our world means weakness. A lot of people have that stigma around sensitivity. Oh, that person's sensitive. Well, really what we're saying is they're weak. But sensitivity actually means strength. If you are very sensitive, it means that you are aware and you're picking up on everything around you, and you're full of sense. You're full of sensory awareness. You can actually feel everything. And that is our birthright, and that's how we were born into this world. The opposite of sensitivity is numbness. And truly, I believe that numbness is one of the biggest issues on our planet, is our ability, we're cut off from feeling our own senses, and therefore we're cut off from feeling other people. And that causes a lot of issues. And the same disconnect that happens because we live in a world where all of us we spend so much time in our head that we've lost connection to the intelligence in our body. And try to fathom this in your mind. Try to think about the digestion of your food or the repairing of your cells. Your mind can't even fathom how magical of a process that is, how much intelligence is actually in that. And so why don't we actually align ourselves to the intelligence of our body? And that is what somatics is. It's aligning to the intelligence of our biology. We have been bypassing nature. We're bypassing our own nature. And if you look at the world right now, the more that we bypass nature itself, well, we are nature. And we're going to have a lot of issues if we continue to bypass the nature of our being, and we continue to bypass the nature of our world. And so to become more sensitive, that's what this work is about, to develop your sensory awareness, especially as a practitioner, but also as a human. These are all, and in the training, I discuss these as meta skills, developing these deep skills that are truly energetic in a way. Your ability to attune to another person, your ability holding space is a meta skill. Your ability to pick up on subtle differences in energetic fluctuation within your own body and with other people is actually true strength. If I was hundreds of years ago, and I was in a tribe, well, just a little thought experiment. If I was in a tribe and, I had to hunt to feed my family, I probably was so sensitive on all of the minute changes in wherever I'm at in nature. I'd be able to tell if a storm's coming in. I'd be able to follow the stars. I'd be able to pick up and notice little tiny tracks and different traces. And that is actually strength, our sensitivity. And so to be full of sense is to be full of sensation. And let's talk a little bit about the opposite of that to give you an idea of what the opposite of sensitivity is. Like I said, I feel like that's the true epidemic in our world, is numbness. And so I want to get this across to you in the best possible way. Really try to wrap your mind around this. To be in a state of numbness, and we've all experienced this, it's an active process. Meaning that when you are in a state of numbness, it's actually draining your energy, because you were born into this world with a gift of feeling and sensitivity, and that's your birthright. But when we go through different things, different stressors, and we're not necessarily set up in the best way in our modern society to feel and to give permission to other people to feel. We're not born into a world that holds space for us, right? It's the opposite. But numbness is an active process, meaning that it takes more energy from my system to push things down. Because feeling and sensing, we are emotional beings. Feeling and sensing is how we were born into the world. And so when I'm in a state of numbness, it's actually draining my energy. And this process, from a body worker perspective, has been known as parasitic tension. We all have different parasitic tension, and what that means, a parasite is something that is draining your energy, right? And so if I have a bunch of emotions that I actually have not let myself feel, if I'm harboring and I'm pushing all of these things down of how I really feel, I'm holding my truth back, that can be parasitic tension. Well, it actually will drain your nervous system energy to show up as the fully alive version of yourself. Really, what sensitivity is aliveness, and the opposite of that is numbness. And I'll give you an understanding of this. So let's take for example the epidemic of alcoholism, or even the opiate epidemic in our world. If I was working a job that was 50 hours a week, that was kind of soul sucking, that was not in alignment with my soul and what I want to do in the world, and I had a boss that was just so hard on me, well, I would probably, when I get off work, I probably would want something to numb me from the pain of my existence, right? I probably would want something to numb me from my reality, because my reality sucks. But if I actually let myself feel the pain of my current reality, well, that pain will become a catalyst, and it'll probably make me want to make a change in my life. And so if I continued to numb myself, well, I'm going to continue to stay in a life that's not in alignment for me. And so, a lot of people, Peter Levine has an amazing quote that says, although trauma and stress rarely kill us, if we do not find a way to move through it, it can create this state called living death. And, I call this the death with your eyes open disease. And I've experienced this so much in my own life. So many times I'm going through the motions in my own life, but I'm actually not alive. I'm walking around, but I'm actually not feeling. Maybe other people like this. It's a living death. The last thing you want to do is die before you die, right? And so we don't equate feeling and sensing to our aliveness. And that's why I have a little pulse, a little heartbeat pulse, because we live in a full spectrum. We live in a duality. And duality means that we're going to go through the highs and we're going to go through the lows. Our nervous system, tomorrow I'll talk about this, but our nervous system operates off of a duality as well. We have a sympathetic state and we have a parasympathetic state, and we're going to get activated and then we're going to relax. Well, we're going to go through the highs in life and we're going to experience some lows. And the opposite of that, to be able to have that full spectrum experience, well, the opposite of that is a flat line. But what is a flat line besides a living death? And so that is the true epidemic of what I feel like we are dealing with in the world, is that we've become numb and we've lost connection to ourselves, and therefore it's so hard to connect to other people if we cannot connect to ourselves. Now, I worked with a woman the other day, and she's probably 60 years old, and she's like, I'm at the point in my life where I don't really want to do this work. Like, I feel like I could just go through the rest of my life, and it's so dark inside of myself. I've pushed so much down that I just don't want to do it. I think I could continue to just suppress for the rest of my life. And I'm like, well, okay, well, why do you want to do this session? And she's like, I'm really having a hard time developing relationships. I'm really having a hard time connecting to other people. Every time I go outside and I go to different places, well, I just get this overwhelming feeling of like anxiety, and the outside world feels really scary. And I will tell you that if your internal world is scary, the outside world will be just as scary. And it's so hard to connect to other people if you're not connected to yourself. And that's how you will burn yourself out. That's how you will find yourself living a life that is not in alignment with you. I've done this before in multiple relationships. I've done this in careers. And, I use the example of, if you are not connected, like, think about all the relationships in your life. If you pull up all of the people that you're connected to, maybe it's your family, your friends, and you look at all the quality of the connection between each person that you are connected to. Well, if you're not connected to yourself, well, then it's actually not you in the relationship with those other people. It's a disconnected version of yourself. And it will take so much energy from yourself to try to connect with others from that place. And then you look around and all of your relationships are actually a facade, and you actually have to hold up the disconnected version of yourself to be in relationship with other people. And that, like I went over here, this nervous system coherence, it will drain your energy. And so it is exhausting. Shannon says it's so exhausting, right? So now that we've defined somatics, and we understand somatics truly is the process of becoming more alive, the process of moving through our numbness and developing our sensitivity and our aliveness. That's what we're all searching for. We want to feel more alive. And like I shared in the beginning, being able to witness this woman who was going through a deep depression to finding what her route of expression and her route of sensitivity and finding a way to express that out into the world, well, I could feel that she was fully alive, and every cell of my being could feel that she was fully alive. And there was no greater feeling. Okay, we're going to get into a little bit of a deeper understanding around stress and trauma. I'm going to take just a minute or so break. We'll go over stress and trauma. Then I'll take you through a little somatic awareness exercise. And then I'll stick on longer for those of you that have some questions and want to chat. But we're on the hour mark. I'm going to let Nadim take over for a second, and I'm just going to use the restroom real quick. I'll let this digest for you. It's a lot of information.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jaggers. Great work. Are you enjoying this information? You can just throw a comment or maybe a thumbs up or heart. I see all of the chat popping off. So thank you so much. It is a lot to take in. And, what's really special about these workshops, we try and do them once a quarter, of course, just as an education, continued education for all of those out there. And hello, I see some of our practitioners on here. But what's special about coming together like this and creating this hour and a half of unity is to see that we're not alone in the experiences that we may be moving through. And that's really important. I'm a big believer in humans and our capability and our ability, and I have a strong faith in humans. And when we can have a safe space, to share, we realize that we're not alone in our experience. I see some of our practitioners on here. So if you are a practitioner, will you let us know if you're on here? Yes, we're here, or maybe you want to become a practitioner. Um, just because I saw some of the names come through, and I know some of you, although you've been through the trainings, still make time to join, which is just so cool. We appreciate that. I love that. And a lot of you are selecting, I want to become a practitioner. So I saw a few people in the chat ask, how do I register? When are the in-persons? We'll certainly cover that, but really we make it a point not to make this workshop about that. You'll have a link where you can register, or actually maybe Shar or Jess, if you could put the link in the chat. If anybody wanted to schedule a call outside of this workshop, we try and protect the container of this workshop to be educational. But if there are those who want to connect to learn about becoming a practitioner, you can click that link that Jess just put in there. Or if throughout anybody asks again, you can, of course, just request that link. We'll send it in the emails as well. But a lot of people are still casting their vote, but I'll go ahead and just share this because I know we're just taking a quick break. And when Jaggers gets back, he'll continue, and then we'll move into just a little bit of a somatic wellness practice. We teach different types of breath works. It's all catered around somatic breath work, but we have 3 different practices. We have our daily practice. We have our somatic reset, which is about a 25, 30-minute session. And then we have our full-on somatic breathwork session, which is about a 60-minute session. And that is what you'll be experiencing on day 3. So very excited about that. Someone said, do you mean somatic practitioner? Maybe elaborate that question a little bit more. Let's see. I want to find out the difference in this breath work compared to other trainings. Have also, yeah, Aroka, I hope I said your name properly. We'll absolutely discuss that. And if you wanted to connect one-on-one with a mentor, you can click that link that Jessica threw in there. Jaggers, welcome back. Hand it back over to you, brother. You bet.
Yeah, that's a great question. What's the difference of this versus others? I want to save that for probably tomorrow in the afternoon because I want to just share this information first just to get this out, and then we'll answer all those practitioner-based questions later on, or you can always book a call and we'd love to chat with you.
For everybody with their hand raised, please do leave your questions in the Q&A. We will answer them, and there will be space and time where we answer them directly. Go ahead, Jaggers.
Okay. So let's pull this up again here. Okay, so we're going to continue with our definitions. Let's define stress a little bit. So one of my favorite definitions, let me pull up the Q&A or the chat so I can keep an eye on that. One of my favorite definitions of stress and or trauma, you could say, is from Gabor Mate. He's been a massive mentor in my life, and truly he's paved the way for so many of us to deepen our understanding. But let's just think about stress for a second. Stress, it's subjective, meaning that what's stressful to me might not be stressful to you, based on a lot of things, based on your ancestry, the patterns that were passed down to you from your parents. And I'm going to back up for a second because I think it's important to have this orientation to understand. Your parents, this process of lineage and ancestral, you could say ancestral healing and ancestral trauma as well. I'm not going to get too far into it, but just to have this understanding. When your parents get together, and obviously they have you, what happens is your mom's taking her DNA, your dad's taking his DNA, and they're combining it together. And really what they're doing is they're giving a gift to the world. And they're saying, here, take this gift of your nervous system, your body, your being, your soma, your living wholeness. It's the greatest gift we've ever been given. And they're saying, here, make it better and pass it down, right? If we had that perspective, imagine what type of world we'd be living in. And so you are the culmination of not just your own experiences in your life, because it's nature and nurture. It's the way you were born into your life, all of your parents' patterns that were passed down to you, all of their strengths and all of their, their trauma and their adaptive patterns as well. And so stress itself, it's subjective, meaning that what's stressful to me might not be stressful to you based on what you've gone through and your level of resilience, right? And so, but stress is not the thing that's happening to you. It's not all of the emails and, paying the bills and taking care of the family. That's not what stress is. Stress is the response inside of you. And you could look at trauma kind of in the same way. Obviously, trauma is a little bit more impactful, but when something traumatic happens, it's not the actual circumstance. It is the response inside of your body. It's a trauma response. It's a stress response. And so the thing that we need to understand, and this will take a tremendous amount of pressure off of yourself, because we all put so much pressure on ourselves, me included. Whatever things that you've gone through and whatever patterns that have come up, whether you're numbing yourself or whether you're acting out in certain ways that aren't in your highest alignment, those responses probably were an intelligent response at some time in your life. And they're designed to protect you. They are intelligent. And I'll go through the process of this, but our trauma responses, our stress responses, are usually designed to protect you from feeling whatever's happening in the moment. But in our world, we have forgotten how to shut those off. A lot of us are living with all of our triggers, all of our stress responses, all of our trauma responses at the forefront of our being, without learning the process of turning it off. And so I want to do a little thought experiment right now. Think about one pattern in your life might be blocking you. What's one thing right now that you're doing that feels like it's blocking you? And if you're comfortable sharing that in the chat, I would love to see and hear. Trying to control everything, that's a big one, right? A nervous system that's in a state of fight or flight will try to control everything. It doesn't want too many variables. It wants stasis. Really, I've gone through this so much. Control means that you want stasis in your life because the outside world is probably shifting and you don't trust it. You don't feel safe, right? So think about whatever that pattern is and what it's doing for you. So let's just take control, for example. Now, I want you to maybe tune into like when you were a child. And maybe that response, that pattern, actually was your superpower. I'll go with control because I know that one very well. And I would say people pleasing is one of the things that I've dealt with within that control. Really, so tune back to maybe the little version of yourself where that pattern was, actually maybe a superpower. It actually protected you. I grew up in a family of addicts that were constantly dysregulated, and I became hypersensitive. And in that hypersensitivity, I would always be tuning in. It's like an emotional monitoring, like, oh oh my God, is there a fight that's going to break out? Is there something that's going to go on right now? Do I need to protect myself? Well, my response to that was I would try to control the environment. I would try to make sure everything's perfect. That way, no fights would happen. And I would literally abandon myself to try to make everyone else happy and to control all of the situation, right? Which was the most intelligent thing that my little Steven knew how to do. And so it's so important to understand that the patterns that are probably blocking you right now, at some point in your life, they were probably the most intelligent thing that your being knew how to do. And so the first step is honoring the intelligence. Honor the intelligence of it. You know, Gabor Mate, when he talks about addiction, it's not that you need to figure out why the addiction. It's like, what is the addiction giving you? What is it giving you? And a lot of the times it's it's giving you something. And so it's not about it's not about trying to get rid of that addiction. It's about figuring out what that's giving you and replacing it with something else that's probably better for you. So let's continue. I'm getting off a little bit here. So it's actually the response. So understanding that our stress response, our trauma responses are intelligent responses. And although they are first intelligent, over time, if they're on all the time, then it numbs our ability to feel ourselves, to be creative, to be sensitive, and to listen to that our own intuitive inner knowing. And those first responses are our instinctual responses. And you probably heard of these: fight, flight, freeze, fawn. These have been cultivated for thousands of years within your nervous system. And I'll tell you, you can think of how old you are. I just turned 32. I am actually not 32. I am actually ancient, because it's taken thousands of years for my nervous system to develop all these responses. And those responses, such as fight, which when something stressful happens, I want to move towards it. I want to go straight on at it. Or I want to flight, means I want to run away. Or maybe I freeze in the moment. And the freeze response, you watch animals that go into this freeze response, really what it is when you freeze, it's a protective mechanism from you actually feeling being eaten alive. I highly recommend this video. If you type in on YouTube, Impala stress response, I think it is, it will showcase the freeze response. And you're playing, like, you watch animals, they play dead, because a lot of the times predators, they have patterns that they don't want to eat something that's dead, so it protects you, right? And a lot of the times that living death happens within that. It numbs our ability to feel. And so the big point of this here is to know that, our patterns, at one time they were adaptive, and at some other time in our life, right now, if they're left active, they become maladaptive. So let's continue here. And now let's deepen our understanding, and let's put that understanding together with somatics. Really what somatics is, it's a lens of viewing your system from a place of nature. It's working with the intelligence of your body. And our nature is that we are instinctual beings first. We feel emotions second. And only lastly does our mind come in and create a story. We live in a world that we are backwards. We think that if we can get everything great going on in our mind, well, that will trickle down and it'll affect our emotions and it'll affect our body and it'll affect our instincts. But I'll tell you what, it goes both ways, and you have to address both. And that's why I truly believe right now that somatics as a whole is gaining so much popularity, because people have done all of the talk therapy, all of the mindset work. But if your body is still stuck in a state of fight or flight or freeze, you can do all that you want to. But your nervous system, your body, is an antenna. We have yet to figure out where is the mind? Where is the mind in your body? Point to it. Your mind is based off of the state of your antenna, the state of your nervous system. Your nervous system is the electrical system of your body. You could call it your chakra system if you want to take an Eastern standpoint from it. Your nervous system is the antenna. It's communicating. And the state of your antenna is going to be what you're picking up on in your mind. If you are stressed, if you are stuck in this wounded animal state, fight, flight, freeze, you're going to be picking up on stressed ideas. You're not going to be thinking clearly. If you're stuck in a contracted state, you're going to be picking up on contracted ideas. It's really hard to think expansively. It's really hard to be creative when your body is stuck in a protective mode. And so I have so many people come to me that are like, I just can't stop these limited thinking. I just can't stop these troublesome thoughts. And they're trying to do all the mindset work. And they're trying to do talk therapy. But if your body is still in a wounded place, it's going to be really hard for you to change your thinking. And I'll talk about why this is. And it's so important to start listening. Like, a big part of this work is learning to listen to the language of your body. The body speaks a language that we already all know. It's not something new, but it's a process of remembering. To remember is to put all the pieces back together that are already there. To remember is to put all the members back together, to remember yourself. A lot of this is an unlearning, and it's a relearning of what's already there. So we are body-centered first, we are emotional being second, and then our mind comes in, and that's the process of how we evolved. Our neocortex, neo meaning new, our frontal lobe here, is the last thing that's developed in our system. Your instincts, you could call that your reptilian brain. Your emotions is your mammalian or your limbic system. And I'll give you a little bit of an understanding, deeper understanding. I'll try to put it in simple terms. Your instincts are the patterns that you've developed and that you were passed down for your own personal survival. If you put your hand on a hot stove, well, you're not going to have to think about it, because you're going to pull your hand away right away, and it's instinctual. It's an instinctual response. It doesn't have to happen up here. If your mind had to think about it, well, it would be too late. Emotions, those are the patterns that we've developed for our social survival. Emotions are the connective tissue of our world. Emotions are what bring us closer together. Emotions are the most powerful thing in our world. It is what bring us together. It's what push us apart. It is the mammalian aspect of our being. It's all what they are there to create relationships. And so your emotions are your patterns that have been passed down to you and you've developed for your own social survival, for community. And the story, the psyche, is probably the most powerful thing in the world. It's what creates up the story that we tell about ourselves and we tell about the world. It's the frame and the perception that we move forward into the world. And so I'll give you this example, and I use this example often. So say wherever you're at right now, say you're in your house. I'm in my house right now. If someone broke into my house, and say they ran in here, I would first have an instinctual response. I would either want to run, I would want to fight them, maybe I'd freeze. That's not happening in my mind, because if it happened in my mind, it would take too long. I need to move, I need to do something, I need to react. And then I'm going to feel an emotion. And emotions are, like I said, one of the most powerful things that we can experience as humans. It's a flood of chemical cocktail of glandular secretions throughout our body. And maybe I feel fear, Maybe I feel courage. And so it happens second. And only after that whole situation went down am I going to start to create a story around it. And a lot of times the story that was created in your mind, the perceptions, now the lens, I think about it as the glasses that you are seeing the world from, it will justify whatever happened on an instinctual and an emotional level. And so say someone broke into my house, my instinctual response was to fight them. And then, I felt it, but I felt a ton of fear, and maybe there was some courage, and I ended up, taking this person down and saving myself and maybe my family. Well, the story that's going to be created in my head is that, I'm a protector. Like I can protect myself. Or maybe the story is that, we're not safe in this house anymore, or we're not safe in the world. And so if you are, and that's obviously a big, a pretty traumatic instance. But if you went through something like a breakup, and you'll know that when you go through a breakup, you a lot of times have an instinctual response, especially if something was really, they cheated on you, or like you're going to be feeling a lot and you're not going to be thinking clearly. You're going to have an instinctual response. And then you're going to feel a ton of emotions. And then the story is going to be based on what you were feeling and the instincts that you had. If your soma is wounded, then your psyche is going to be compelled to create stories about the world that justify the wound and the defense systems it chose to protect itself. If our soma is wounded, our stories about ourselves and the world skew towards darkness. To liberate our psyche, to be free to create beautiful stories, to develop expansive thinking, to have clarity of vision, we must first heal the soma. And to say it plain and simple, if your body's in pain, try thinking clearly. If someone just broke your heart, try thinking clearly. To think clearly, to activate this artist, this storyteller, we must first look at our emotions and our instincts. And we've lived here as a society, and we have weeded out all of our emotional processes. We've told most people to, not feel, to suck it up, to hold it all back. And we've completely bypassed our body. And so to liberate the psyche, to be free to create beautiful stories, we must first heal the soma. And let's talk about what that actually looks like. And we'll get into the breathwork session tomorrow. But to understand how this process takes place, we first need to understand, like, what's the natural way that our body discharges these trauma responses, these stress responses. What are our innate somatic processes? I'm already seeing some of them come in. Shaking is definitely one of them. Hold on, I gotta get a drink of water real quick. Yawning, crying, trembling, rage, anxiety, tapping. Anxiety is more of a symptom of something. I'll talk about anxiety in a moment. So let's dive into what is the natural way that our body processes stress and moves through it, so we are actually not harboring it. Now, I had someone the other day say, we go into specific emotions inside of the training, like anger, like sadness, grief, a lot of these different emotional expressions. And she was like, I don't feel like I'm an angry person, and going into anger is really hard for me. And no one is an angry person. No one is a sad person. An emotion is energy in motion. It's flowing through you. And the research out there shows that an emotion, if you are emotionally intelligent, emotional intelligence means that you have healthy ways to move emotion through your body so that it's not affecting your decision making. Because when we make emotionally based decisions, a lot of the times we hurt ourselves, we hurt other people, we get ourselves into some areas that are not necessarily beneficial. And so, she says to me, "I'm just not an angry person." I'm like, "Well, you're a human, so anger is a part of this human experience, and anger actually tells us where our boundaries are at. If someone was hurting my family, best believe I'm going to get angry. Anger tells us where our yes is and where our no is at. And when someone crosses a boundary that is big enough for me to get angry, well, it's telling me where my no is at. And a lot of times, if we don't have a healthy connection to our anger, a lot of times we don't have a healthy connection to our boundaries. So I'll get back to the example. She's saying, I'm not an angry person. Well, if we don't have a healthy outlet for anger, a lot of the times what happens is we store that anger, and then it becomes like, take, for example, passive aggressiveness. How many of you have ever experienced passive aggressiveness from another person or maybe yourself? I have been passive aggressive many times. Well, what passive aggression is that there is anger that is built up inside of the body, but it hasn't had a way to move through you, so it starts leaking. It starts leaking out in all these little circumstances, right? And then, it leaks, and most of the time it leaks out on the people that we're closest to, which is unfortunate. I if you've seen our videos on Somatic, I get a lot of people commenting that say, "Why are these people yelling and screaming? Why are these people it looks so scary?" Well, what I say to them is, I'm like, well, it's better out on the mat than it is out on their family or out in the world. Everyone has an internal experience. And we go through life and, we don't get to see a lot of the times people's internal experience, but everyone is feeling. Feeling and emotions starts to show us how much more similar we are than we are different. Everyone feels emotion. And so it's better out because it's got to go somewhere. Energy is or emotions are energy in motion. And if we, and especially I've seen a lot of comments come in about the youth. Teaching this to the youth is probably the biggest thing that we could possibly do. And to repattern what emotional intelligence is, what emotional wellness is, and creating places and spaces where people have the opportunity to feel in the presence of an empathetic witness that is not trying to fix them. You think about some of the shamanic cultures where we used to get around a fire and we would sing and we would dance and we would cry and we would yell and we would scream together without trying to fix each other. But as we've weeded a lot of those cultures out, we've lost the ways in which humans actually move through stress. How many of you guys like to dance? Any dancers out there? Maybe you feel afraid of dancing. Let me know. I've definitely been afraid of dancing. I know Nadim loves to dance.
I love to dance. I was waiting for it.
Nadim is a really good dancer.
I feel so much better after dancing. It's like the metric is waking up the next morning and you're like, wow, I truly feel so much better in my body. I let go of so much pent up tension.
So I'll explain why that is. When you are dancing, you are telling every cell in your body that you're not in the presence of a stressor, that you're not in the presence of a trauma, that you're not in, that you are actually safe. When you are dancing, you're telling your nervous system and every cell in your body that you're safe and it's okay for you to be alive. It's okay for you to enjoy this human existence. A lot of the times when people have a hard time dancing, it's because their body's stuck in a state of fight or flight. If you're stuck in a state of stress, it's going to be really hard for you to dance. When you are dancing, you are expressing yourself in a way that you're telling every cell in your body that you're safe. And what is dancing besides a type of expression. And so let's get into that. Singing too. So these innate processes and how we move stress and trauma out of our system. Let's talk about stress a little bit here. So stress, if we just look at, like, if I'm going to stress this table that's in front of me, I'm putting pressure on it. We live in a world where stress is guaranteed. Stress and taxes and death are all guaranteed. And there's eustress and distress, right? Stress it's the number one thing that kills us. Stress, if we have too much of it, it weakens our system to the point that we can't fight things off. But if we have just enough stress that we're able to overcome it and we're able to grow from it, well, it actually causes growth as well. And so stress is pressure. How do we move that pressure out of our system? Well, we have to find ways to X the pressure. We have to find ways to express. I've worked with so many people that have gone through incredibly stressful situations. And remember, stress is subjective. What's stressful to you might not be stressful to me. They've gone through incredibly stressful circumstances and have found ways to channel that stress into a form of expression. And if we do not find ways to express ourselves, and I'll talk about how that relates to somatics, if we do not find ways to express ourselves, then a lot of times we will suppress and we will repress. And as you can see here, we'll create symptoms of dis-ease. What happens is, like I said, that numbness is an active process. When you're repressing, you're pushing things down. Well, the body doesn't want to hold on it. And so it wants to come up and out. It wants to find a channel and an outlet. Your body doesn't want to hold it. It doesn't want to hold it. It wants you to live your best life. We all want to live our best life. And so you think of passive aggressiveness, that's a symptom of a dis-ease of energy moving through your system. It's a block. And in a healthy system, it takes about 90 seconds for an emotion to move through you. Some people, it takes their whole life. They've been so afraid to actually feel that they spend their whole life, when really it probably was 90 seconds of a good cry or a good yell, a good scream, and you'd feel so much lighter. So what is this expression? It's considered a discharge. From a somatic context, an expression, an emotional release, and these are both like the beautiful ones, such as dancing and singing and laughing and feeling bliss, and playing music, and maybe some of the most stressed out people that I know have channeled that stress into some of the greatest art that the world has ever seen. Guarantee you look at your Spotify playlists, and a lot of these artists were probably really stressed out at one time, and they found a way to channel this stress into a form of expression. And so if we bring it back to the body, if we bring it back to the soma, that expression is our felt sensations. It's considered a discharge. And so completing the necessary actions that your body needed to do, that were demanded from you in the presence of whatever stressful circumstances. Maybe you wanted to run. Maybe you wanted to, say F you to somebody. Maybe you wanted to yell at the top of your lungs. Maybe you wanted to fight somebody. Maybe you felt so angry. Maybe you wanted to laugh, but you actually had to hold it back. Well, that expression, that movement of energy through your system, like I saw so many people comment on here with crying, yelling, screaming, shaking, all of those expressions, none of them are bad or good. What's going on is that when you allow it to move through you, it sends a signal to your nervous system that you're not in the presence of a stressor anymore. And that way you can go back into your life and continue your life. So many people are walking around and they've processed it all in their head, but they actually never let themselves feel. And so their body is still stuck in a contracted state. Your body's walking around basically like thinking that you're in the presence of a tiger all day long. The tiger is just on your shoulder, and your body's in this state of fight or flight all the time, and it takes a tremendous amount of energy from your system. And so if we actually never let ourselves feel, If we had if there was an absence of these discharges where most of us were told to sit down, shut up, suck it up, it's a signal to our being that the threat has not been solved, and that response, that stress response, stays active. These can stay active for weeks, months, years, and begin the symptomatic process of dis-ease, of energy flowing through our. We are expression vessels. We can move our body in all different ways. We can sing, we can dance, we can tell people that we love each other. Right? The expenditure of this energy is the signal to the body that can release the defense system. So you look at something like dance, like I said. If you're dancing, well, you are expressing, you're shaking, you're moving. The expenditure of that energy is saying that you can release the defense system and that you are safe. Within somatic breathwork, we create, and we're going to go over this tomorrow, we create a physiological state using breath work where this discharge, this expression is accessible, because we're getting out of the mind and we're getting back into the body, and the body knows what it needs to do. We just have to listen to it. So expressing frees the nervous system of its defense systems that actually hold it in a contracted state or a holding pattern. And we'll talk about repatterning. Now, this, maybe I'll talk about it here. When you actually clear, when you discharge, when you have an expression and your nervous system starts to feel safe again, when you clear, you actually become clear. A lot of the times we can't think clearly because we have so much emotions bottled inside of us, so much pain in our body, so many things on our heart, on our chest that we haven't gotten off of it, right? What is that? What does it mean to get something off your chest? It means to move it through you, to speak it, to express it, to get it out of your body and into the world. Once a person has completed the feedback loop of having a somatic expression, their nervous system starts to break free from these contracted survival states. This allows for a greater feeling of safety within your system to access elevated states of emotion. Let's talk about that for a second. How many of you on here have ever held yourself back from feeling good? How many of you have a hard time feeling good? Have a hard time feeling joy, laughter, bliss? Well, when you cut yourself off from feeling pain, when you cut yourself off from feeling in general, you cut yourself off from feeling. There's been so many times in my life where I've cut myself off from feeling true joy, from feeling joy for the people in my life, with my family. And that has been because I was in a contracted state. I was in a dysregulated state. And so when you start to allow yourself to express, which we'll talk about because it's a healthy outlet of expression, right? We start to be able to access elevated states of emotion. These elevated states of emotion, and if you want to go down a rabbit hole on that, I highly recommend Joe Dispenza. He has some incredible work. Creating elevated states of emotion, feeling good, the ripple effect that it has on your physiology is absolutely incredible for your cells, for your immune system, for your brain, for your heart. And so during, if you stick around for day 3, which I'd be honored, and I feel so honored every time we do these workshops to be able to hold these sessions for you. It truly is so beautiful. We will help you express, and you can only go as deep as you allow yourself to, and a little bit at a time is okay. And then we will help you repattern, and we will help you to cultivate elevated states of emotion and clear vision, right? So that's it for today as far as the curriculum goes. I hope you have enjoyed this, and let me know right now what your biggest takeaway from today has been. I would love to hear. And I think if we have time, I might take you through a somatic practice, a quick one. Let me know what your biggest takeaway was. Maybe it was something that you already know. It's just hearing it in a different way. Sensitivity is strength. Dancing tells the body it's safe, right? Ah, well, Nadim, I know you're kind of keeping track of time here. Maybe we take just a moment break. Do you want to move into like some questions, or I could always save the practice for tomorrow, the beginning of tomorrow, if you feel like we want to go into questions, or I could. I probably need about at least 15 minutes for the practice.
I would say let's ask everybody. If you want us to do the activity today, maybe just throw a thumbs up. Or just everybody overwhelmingly, yes. So how about this? How about we take maybe 2 or 3 minutes, use the restroom if you need, grab a water if you need, and we can come back and we can do this activity. As Jagger said, it'll take about 15 minutes. So let's go ahead and just take a little break and we can come back.
Perfect.
Yeah, wonderful. In the meantime, I'll throw up a poll and we could just ask some of these questions. And the first question is, what's your biggest challenge when it comes to creating and maintaining boundaries in a somatic practice? Right? And feel free to answer those freely. I know a lot of us may be using the restroom right now. There's no rush. I know for myself, when it comes to maintaining boundaries in somatic practices, um, it's really knowing how to establish boundaries with others, more so because I'm a big time generator. I like to get things done. And I like to, it's like Atlas. I'll carry the world on my shoulders for everybody. And so I'll continue to say yes. And I know that saying no is certainly a superpower. And the times and space when I do flex that no, whew, I feel so good. Projectors, yeah. Well, Zula Bear, we would work really well together. Jaggers is a projector, for those of you who could not tell. And so we work really well together. Generators and projectors, they need each other. Humans need each other. We need each other. So love that. Okay, cool. Yeah, lots of questions. As you can see all the questions. The second question was or is, which area of somatic foundations discussed today resonated most with you? Overwhelmingly, everybody is saying I found all these areas valuable, which was identifying and working with the bodily sensations, the importance of being an empathetic witness. That's always a really big one for us here at Somatiq Breathwork, and that healing truly does happen in the in the setting of an empathetic witness. And lastly, how confident do you feel in your ability to hold space after today's session? A lot of you saying you feel ready to practice. I need more practice. I understand the concept. I need guidance. Not confident yet. I need further training. Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, I myself have been doing this, going on, with Somatic, 3 years, and so much comes up for me. I've in the last 5 years, I myself have probably done 100 sessions in terms of received. And most recently in October, I had done one in Sedona, and it was the first time that I had, and maybe this lands for some of you, I just had that that ugly cry where your face is like, don't look at me. But everybody could see, and that was okay. And no apparent reason, why that came through. I said, use me as an open vessel, and that's what decided to come through. And I sobbed, and it felt good. It felt good. That sensation of like a tear rolling down your face. That's not something that I, as a man, as a wrestler for 20 years, have felt. Most of my tears came from anger, not out of sensation of just feeling good and feeling whole. Yeah, it was a good cleanse, Susie. It sure was. Yeah. What are my temper tantrums? I wouldn't say I have temper tantrums. Maybe if the team's on here, you can chime in. I don't know that I have temper tantrums, but I can certainly be very direct. And that's just because of my background. And it's good. It's good to have polarity though. And I'm very thankful for the Somatic team because we all hold space for each other. Sweat lodges and firewalking, probably my most potent results. I've done a couple sweat lodges myself, and you're in it. You are in it. All right, welcome back, brother. And I'm going to go ahead and end the questions. I'll share them with everybody so you can see. Thank you all so much for participating and answering. And yeah, get ready for this activity. It'll be lovely.
I want to speak to the temper tantrum thing for a moment because it speaks to what we were talking about earlier. I've had people call me an adult temper tantrum specialist, if you will. What is a temper tantrum besides a discharge, an expression of energy, right? You look at children. Children are so in touch with their innate knowledge and their not knowledge, but in the innate wisdom of their body. When something happens, something stressful happens, they immediately start going into a temper tantrum, and it starts to move through you, right? It moves through them. And so obviously it's cultivating places and spaces for that to be able to happen. It's not necessarily like someone can't just have a temper tantrum in the middle of the store, right? That our job as parents, I'm not a parent right now, so I can't fully speak to it, but our job is to help show them healthy ways to express, healthy ways to move things through our system. And at first, I talked about art. I definitely have an internal artist inside of me. We all do. We all truly do. But at first, it becomes about expressing and getting it out of the body. A lot of the stuff that we have not moved through, that's blocking our artist. That is, maybe you resonate with this. The self-doubt, the self-judgment, the pressure you put on yourself, the thinking I'm not good enough. Well, all of that needs to come up and out, needs to be felt first, so that you can peel back the layers to your own internal artist. And what I call that is your own unique expression. All of us, every single person on this, every person alive has their own unique expression. And we're all expressing ourselves in this symphony of life. And all of us want to have our own unique expression in the world. And that starts first by expressing and moving through some of the stuff that we've pushed away or pushed down in our body. And then eventually it becomes about finding a way to channel that expression into a form of art. So let's go ahead and go through this somatic awareness practice. How many of you have done a somatic awareness practice with us before? It's a simple practice, but it is simple does not mean easy. And within this, there's a tremendous amount of depth. And I will say, before we do this, there's a chance that you might get a little frustrated with yourself because it might be hard to tune into. And it really is a practice of learning the language of your body. And so within that, first off, the first rule is that everybody has to hold space for themselves. You are holding space for yourself. And what does that mean? If anybody wants like extra credit right now, I know we're just doing this free workshop, but extra credit if you can define holding space in the comments. And basically what I'm saying is that be objective with yourself. Don't try to fix yourself. Be truthful with where you are at. Have grace. Don't judge yourself. Be truthful with where you're at. So while we go into this it's an internal awareness practice. It's a somatic awareness practice. Just be truthful with yourself. Where are you actually at? And so let's first, I'll talk through it first and then I'll guide you through it. So, this process, we're going to be going through the bottom up awareness process of tuning into our physical sensations of our body, our emotions, and also the story that might be playing in our head. And we're going to see if any of them are connected. And from that place, this activity can lead into so many other things. And it's really powerful to do with, maybe you have clients that you're working with. Maybe it would be really powerful to do with your loved ones if they are open to it. So let's go ahead and find a comfortable position. You can do this seated. You can do this standing if you want. You can do it laying down. Just a comfortable position for yourself. I'm going to put on some music here. And a lot of the times, this can be a lot easier to do after you've done a full somatic breathwork session, because sometimes there's a lot of stuff there that's in the way of being able to feel ourselves. And that's okay. Give yourself grace. You are what you repeatedly do. And so I would highly recommend doing this for yourself over and over again, at least once a day or 2 times a day. Maybe you do this with your partner in the morning. So find a comfortable seated position. Close your eyes if that feels good for you. And let me know if you can hear music and my voice. Is it a good volume? Okay. So start to close your eyes if that feels good, and start to bring all of your awareness back into your body. Reclaim all of your attention from whatever else you have to do today. Bring it all back in. Start to occupy your body. Can you feel what's going on in your feet, in your legs, your hips, your spine, your heart space? And so if I were to ask you how you were feeling right now, you could resource the answer from a multitude of different places. If I were to ask you how you feel, it's a broad question. You could maybe say that I'm feeling pain in my body, or I'm moving through a lot of sadness right now, or I feel bliss. Or maybe you could say, I have so much on my mind right now. I have so much to get done. I'm feeling overwhelmed. And so this process is about compartmentalizing them, because there's a lot of places where you resource your feeling. And so first, just tune into your body. Are there any sensations in your body right now? Maybe there's tension in your shoulders, in your neck. Maybe Maybe there's pain in your lower back. So just tune into the body separate from emotions. We're compartmentalizing them. Right now, I am noticing, and whatever you're noticing in the chat, I'm noticing this in my body. And maybe it's hard to tune into your body. Me right now, I'm noticing, and a lot of the times I'm catching myself trying to fix it already because I'm noticing tension in my hips. Try not to fix it. I'm noticing weight on my shoulders. I'm noticing this bubbly sensation in my stomach. Stay objective. Don't judge it. Just see if you can listen. And whenever you're done typing, come back to your body, back to your awareness. We're going to move up. We're going to move up this process to your emotions. For me, a lot of the times the emotions start in my belly, might move up to my chest. Is there any emotions that are present for you? What are you feeling right now? And write in the chat, I am feeling this. Peaceful, sad. Don't try to change it. Just notice it. Where are you at right now? And I will tell you, because I've done this a lot, that you might have to go a little bit deeper. There's a surface level emotion. See if you can go a little bit deeper. How are you really feeling? Overwhelmed is not overwhelmed with tasks is not a feeling. That's the mind. So once you have written that in the chat, come back to your awareness again, come back to your body. So we've gone over, I'm noticing this in my body, I'm feeling this. Is there any story? Let's move up into the mind space. Is there any story that's playing in your head right now that's running in the background? And the prompt for this one is, I'm imagining this. Or the story in my head is this. Not good enough. There's not enough money. The world is unfair. I'm not broken. What is the story that's going on in your head right now that's running in the background? I'm stuck. Don't judge it. Try not to judge it. Objective awareness. And so come back after you write it. Now that you've resourced this awareness from 3 different places, your physical body, your emotions, your mental story, notice and see if they're connected at all. See if there's any connection in between them. See if it's changed. For me, I was noticing a bubbling in my stomach, feeling happy, also a little nervousness, a little anxiety. And often the story that plays in my head when I do these workshops is, I hope I'm good enough. I hope I'm doing a good job. And even as I say that out loud, I feel tears start to swell up a little bit. And so this awareness can definitely bring things up for you, and that's okay. So let's come back to the awareness now that we've checked in with ourselves. See if they're connected. And they are. From this place is where we can actually express ourselves. It starts with somatic awareness. Can we actually feel where we are at and be honest with ourselves? And then it becomes somatic literacy, which is, can I put it into words and can I share it? Can I express it? Can I tell other people how I'm feeling? Imagine if we lived in a world where we actually told each other how we were feeling and where we were at. Most of us aren't connected to ourselves, or we're just connected to the story, and then we try to speak from that place. The literacy part is hard. It's a step-by-step process. Some of you might feel that this is a very simple process, but this activity goes deep. The more you do it, the more you're learning the language of your body. This is your owner's manual. We're not given an owner's manual when we're young, or maybe when we're adults. And so there's one more part of this. Bring your awareness back to your body. Notice it. From this place is where we can actually express our desires. We all have desires. We all have wants and needs. It's okay to have wants and needs. You're allowed to have wants and needs. So from this place, I'm noticing this in my body. I'm feeling this. The story in my head is this. Now that I'm connected to myself, what is it that you are wanting? What is it that you desire from that place? Because you can't actually give yourself something if you don't know where you're at. Right now, in the comments, what is one thing that you desire? To be heard, to be safe. practicing your somatic literacy right now by putting it into words and sharing it with everyone on here. Based on that desire, what's one thing that you can do for yourself within the next week to start to move towards that? It's one thing. One thing. Don't make it, and don't make it complex. What's the one thing that you can do today, perhaps, or maybe tomorrow? And thank you for sharing. Healing happens in community. Healing happens in the presence of an empathetic witness. There is no such thing as self-help. There is no such thing as self-development, because we need each other. We need each other. We are mammals. We are humans. We need each other. A big part of this is remembering that we need each other. And we have to do this work for ourselves, but we don't have to do it alone. And that's what it is. We need other people to remind us, to remember, to help us remember, right? Doesn't matter where you're at in your life. We always need other people to help show us parts of ourselves. And so I would love to, if you were to continue, I mean, we're all adults here. If you found this practice beneficial for yourself, I highly recommend doing it. Set an alarm on your phone. Do it in the morning. Maybe if you have a daily breathwork practice, this is really good to do right after the daily breathwork to really check in, see where you're at. So I hope you enjoyed this practice, and if you want to take it to the advanced level, and I did talk about holding space today, so you can do this with another person. You can take turns. I'm noticing this in my body. What are you noticing? I'm feeling this. And really make sure you take ownership of that, because what I see in this is a lot of the times people will say, well, you made me feel this way. You're making me feel this way. Nobody makes you feel anything. They're your feelings. Someone can do something that causes you to feel, and that can be, not okay. And that's okay. But you can, go back and forth. I'm noticing this in my body. I'm feeling this. The story in my head is this right now. And this is what I actually desire. And this is what I want. And then you give them an opportunity to say that as well. And it can really be so powerful for creating more connection, more aliveness within yourself and with another person. So I really appreciate everyone tuning in today. I will stick on for a little bit and answer some questions. I want to share one other thing too. We go through seasons in our life where we're outwardly expanding, and we are sharing our expression in the world. And then we go through seasons just like winter and summer and spring and fall. We go through seasons where it's time to go inside. And I was asked the other day, like, what makes a practitioner someone who's really good? What makes someone really good at being a practitioner? And I'm like, well, someone who's going through their own healing process, who's embodying it. And I think about, I was asked, like, what I think when I first answered that question, it was like someone who's in alignment. And that answer came from my mind. What makes a good practitioner? Someone who's aligned. And what makes someone a good human, perhaps? Someone who's aligned. And what's the definition of alignment? And I'm like, okay, well, alignment is that I have my boundaries. I know what is self and what is other. And, I'm congruent within myself, means I'm in truth. And I'm also able to be present. And those answers, they might be right per se, but they came from my mind. But the real answer was someone who's on their own healing journey. And I'm thinking about what is the process of my own healing journey, and I'll share this with you. There were 3 words that came through within my own healing journey that I feel have been really important for me. The first one has been commitment. A lot of us are afraid of commitment, and we think of commitment as committing to somebody else or committing to something outside of us, but the commitment to yourself, that your life begins and ends with breath. When you take your first one, and you'll eventually take your last. And will you commit to yourself to go on your healing journey? And when it gets hard, because it doesn't always have to be hard, but it can be hard. And are you committed to staying in that? So it's commitment. The next one is curiosity. We talked a lot about the fix-it mentality earlier. The opposite of the fix-it mentality is curiosity. Let's just see what's in there. I had this visual. Maybe this resonates with you. When I think about curiosity as far as my own healing journey, I had this visual of a little Steven inside of me. And he's looking around with a flashlight. And he's, looking down in the shadows, all the ways I haven't shown up, all of my own stuff that I have to work through. And he's looking down there and he's like, whoa, there's a lot there. This is going to take a long time. I don't know if you ever felt that before. But he's looking around inside, just curious. What's in there? And he's looking up at all, because curiosity in your own healing journey is not just about going into your shadows, but it's also about going into your strengths and all the things you're good at and your power. And looking up at them, being like, wow, because a lot of the times when we step into our power, it means that we step into a new level of responsibility. And a lot of times we're afraid of that. So I'm looking around at all of those. And the last word is grace. Our healing journey is going to require grace, because we're always accumulating more as we go through life, and we're always going to have stuff to work on. And so there's a relaxation that happens when you are able to sit back and say, I'm in it for the long run. I'm in it for the long run. And so those 3 pillars have been really important for me in my own healing journey, and hopefully that resonates with you as well. I'm going to pass it off to Nadim. Maybe we move into some questions here. Or if we want to save them for next class, you let me know.
Yeah, thanks, Jaggers. Really appreciate it. I know we did cover quite a bit today, and we went over our time, which is completely fine. This time and space is for all of you, and so again, we thank you tremendously for being here. By no means do you have to stick around, but there are some questions, and if you're opening to answer maybe 4 or 5 of them, Jaggers, then maybe we do that.
Yeah, I got them pulled up here. I can answer a couple.
Sure.
Um,
And just before you get into it tomorrow, in case any of you do have to jump off, we do have a big day tomorrow. We're going to be discussing somatic techniques, and we also have a pretty exciting live podcast with Exhale Boise, which is going to be amazing. They are a group of certified Somatiq Breathwork practitioners. They've been certified for a year and have made a tremendous impact with local communities. And we're really excited to discuss the collaboration of practitioners and what you can do in that regard. So, yeah, let's get into some of these questions since you haven't pulled up. Feel free to go ahead if you have them in front of you.
yeah, there's a couple good ones on here. First off, let's see. How can control be a superpower? Control can absolutely be a superpower. And I said this already, but when you are in a state of fight or flight, when you're in a stress state, and remember that your fight or flight responses are intelligent responses, they keep you safe. But when you're controlling things, what you're doing is you're saying that there's too much change going on, there's too many variables. I need stasis. I need things to be a certain way so that I can relax. And it can be an absolutely intelligent response, and it can be a superpower in a lot of ways. Now, I have gone through lots of stuff around control, and control can be really powerful for being a practitioner and being a space holder, right? The container that you're creating for someone allows the magic to take place in it. And the containers that you're controlling the variables, you're controlling and creating a safe space. Control can be creating a safe space for yourself. You need things to be a certain way so that you feel safe. And maybe you do that for maybe you do that for other people, and that can it can really help people feel safe within that, because too many variables, too many things going on. We live in a world where change is the only thing that's constant. It can be really dysregulating for our system. So control can absolutely be a superpower. Let's read this one out loud. It's kind of long, but let's say this may be beyond the scope of this session, but I ask, when I'm on social media and I see rage, people flinging their hate at each other, this seems to be a pandemic in itself, a very unhealthy way of discharging emotion. At the same time, there's no way to know what people are actually experiencing when they post. Are they truly feeling anger or just posting to elect response? It is alarming to me, seeing an escalation, just wondering what your take might be on that. This is a deep question. Like we've talked about, emotions are energy in motion, and they want to go somewhere. And our bodies are naturally trying to discharge them because we want them to move through us. And so what you're looking at is an unhealthy way of expressing it and getting it out. And the more you dive into this work, the more you start to see and witness that people are often running their patterns. And it's not the things that are happening from their mind, it's from the state of their body. And when we have a lot of repressed stuff, it wants to move through us, and we will. What I see is a being that's just begging for an outlet. It's begging for an outlet because the pain doesn't want to live in your body. Pain, anger, sadness, all of these emotions are not designed to stay in your body. They're designed to move through you. And so that's where having places and spaces and things and practices that you do to be able to move that through, so that you can make clear decisions, so that you don't bring those emotions into a conversation and hurt other people. And what I see is humans that are struggling internally, that are feeling a lot but haven't had a place to actually let themselves feel. And so we're utilizing, right? We live in the world of the internet now where a lot of people feel like they have this outlet of expression, but don't realize that it can actually take a massive toll on other people on the other side. If EMDR destabilized me, will somatic breathwork do the same? First off, I will say that no modality by itself is a one-size-fits-all thing. I, as a practitioner, have studied multiple different modalities. And I will tell you that I'll say here humbly, as the kind of creator of this, is that this is not a heal all or fix all. It can be very powerful for a lot of people. And I've seen it be very powerful for a lot of people. And I've seen EMDR be very powerful for a lot of people. You won't know until you try. And the term destabilization, destabilization truly means that you've become dysregulated, right? And I would highly recommend you come to tomorrow's class, because I'll talk about what is this sort of discharge? What is, how, like, why is breath work causing emotional release? And some of us can be over regulators, meaning that something comes up and we immediately need to stabilize ourselves. And so destabilization can be a process of expression. It means that something's bubbling up, and maybe you didn't have the opportunity to complete the full thing. It means that something was bubbling up and it didn't get fully resolved. And so you're in this middle ground where you feel destabilized, and that can be really tough. I've been there before, and I know how that is. And a lot of it has to do with the practitioner as well. If you felt safe or not enough with them. And so I would say, you got to try it to see if it works for you. And we'll do a session on Tuesday. So, and there was a question that came up around, this leads into the other question, is like, let me see here. Someone had a question around anxiety or a panic attack. How many of you have ever experienced anxiety or a panic attack before? I have. Well, what is anxiety or a panic attack? What's going on is that something is bubbling up to the surface. When you feel anxiety, it's that something's coming up, right? Your body's feeling scared. Something is bubbling up. You don't have control because it's an involuntary response that something is bubbling up. When you have a panic attack, it's like it is a certain amount of that anxiety, is a lot of it is coming up, right? And so what happens is something is bubbling up and wants to come up and out. And the more that we push down the anxiety, then something will trigger it and we'll have a panic attack, right? But anxiety oftentimes is a byproduct of you or me not listening to our truth. And a lot of the times can be around big decisions that we got to make. How many of you have ever experienced anxiety around a big life choice? Should I stay in this relationship? Should I stay in this career? Those are big, scary things. And a lot of the times we will continue to feel anxiety and perhaps have a panic attack when we're not actually paying attention to that, and we keep pushing it down, and it wants to bubble up, and until we pay attention to it and listen to it, because there's an intelligence behind it that is telling you something, and it's probably telling that, hey, you need to go in a different direction. This is not an alignment for you. And it can be a scary decision, but it's worth it. It's worth it. So let's go on to a couple other ones here. First, somatic experience. My cervical and lumbar spine feels so tight. My mind feels blank most of the time. I almost felt like I had to force a thought. My chest is heavy and hurts. I'm not sure I feel more clarity, but part of my wants is to curl up in a heated blanket. But I know getting up and being productive will be better. Am I not in the right place to do this? The blanket feeling is really weighing on me. I would say listen to the intelligence of your body. If that's what it's craving, then absolutely do that. What is the fawn in those instinctual responses is the next question. So fawn response is kind of a newer response in our evolutionary development. Fawn response basically means that I am going to embody what this outside stressor is happening. I'm going to morph myself into what I think that this situation is needing. So I'm going to fawn. Means that I will change. It's like the chameleon inside of you that will change and adapt and it people please. Exactly. I will abandon myself and change and morph myself into what I think that this stressful situation needs. It's appeasing. Exactly. And is hearing our first sensory sense that develops. It's actually when we are, it's touch. When we are born, hopefully the first sense that we feel is the touch of our mother's skin to skin contact. And obviously we have other senses that develop soon after. But touch, to give you a little bit more context and background on me, my approach into this work and my journey into this work has been through the body and a lot of hands-on touch techniques, body work, somatic body work, neuromuscular therapy, and touch is something that we are deprived of. A big mission of mine, even before somatic breathwork, was to repattern healthy platonic touch. A lot of times we're scared to touch each other. Touch is the sensation that we have the most amount of defenses around, but it's an essential nutrient for our system. When we feel the touch of someone else, it literally activates our internal pharmacy, if you will, and we will release oxytocin and a bunch of other neurotransmitters. That is essential for us. There's multiple studies done on that. And so repatterning healthy touch can be so powerful for the system. And I'll share something else around that because there aren't really any other. I think there's one more question. I had when I do in-person sessions, I had a woman. I always ask for consent to touch. It's obviously so important as a practitioner. You have to ask for consent. And I always tell them at any time, if I'm working on you and it's taking you out of your session and it doesn't feel productive, you can push me away. Just tell me to go away. Because in a session, I don't actually know where someone's fully at and what they're going through. I obviously have my sensing skills that are honed over time. But you always put the power back into their hand. Just because it's a yes right now doesn't mean that it's a no later on. And so maybe they're okay with hands-on touch now, but maybe later on maybe it's a no. And so you always put the power back in their hand. Well, I was working with a woman, and I could see emotions were coming up, and I got to the point where maybe I was going to hold her in that process. And she ended up just throwing me off and pushing me away. And you know, in that moment as a practitioner, I'm like, oh my God, did I do something wrong? Right? All of your own doubts and people pleasing stuff come up. And, um, you know, she shared at the end, and she was like, this was the first time that I've ever said no to a man, and he's actually listened to me. And so how powerful was that to be able to repattern that? You know, I stepped in as, you know, the embodiment of the masculine in that, and, you know, got to the point where I was going to hold her because she was crying, and she pushed me away, and I listened to it. And so to be able to repattern that, to be able to stand in and repattern that for her was incredibly powerful. To be to honor someone's boundaries, right? That was the thing that her body and being needed to do, probably in the moment of a trauma or a stressor, and she was able to repattern that. So, just to give you an example, let's see here. Thank you for this session. I am a 5-element acupuncture practitioner of 40 years. I appreciate much of what you are sharing. I have a concern prompted by your suggestions for participants to try practice with others with so little training. My request is please address the prime directive, do no harm first. I appreciate you saying that. I would highly, highly, highly recommend doing this with yourself first, over and over and over again. And I would never say to do a full somatic breathwork session. Obviously, this is a somatic check-in process, and you should, like anybody who's in any sort of helping profession, we often forget this, but what this person is talking about is the Hippocratic Oath. And that Hippocratic Oath is, thou shalt first do no harm. A lot of the times we think we're helping somebody, but oftentimes we can absolutely be harming somebody if we are not paying attention to all of it. So what I would do is approach that practice from a place of just curiosity, if you were to do it with somebody else, but you can only take others as far as you've gone yourself, and it probably actually won't work if you haven't done it enough yourself. So I appreciate that. Last question from, let's see here. My brother committed suicide a year ago. It is really hard for me to be around my sister who has big emotions. I heard you say that I don't know what is best for anyone. She hasn't done any work in her life. Having a boundary around spending significant time feels like I'm being a bad sister. Is it possible to have reasons that it is too hard to hold space? This is a tough one. I will first say that, there is no right or wrong answer to this, that you know inside what's right for you. And a lot of the times this goes into this, the same, holding space comment is that what's good for you oftentimes is good for another person. What feels good for you and supporting your system is oftentimes good for another as well. And I would say that for me in my own life, it's important to not think about this in a static way, because like for me and my family, my parents, there's been multiple times where I had to, like, I was fully trying to show up and hold space and be there for them and help them in all the ways that I could. And I was burning myself out, and I lost myself in that. And I overextended myself. And therefore, it's not necessarily helping them, and it's not helping me either. And then I swung the pendulum to the other side, and I completely put up boundaries and a wall. And I'm like, I can't talk to you all. Like I need to have my own space. And I actually went for multiple years without speaking to them. Obviously, these are dramatic swings of the pendulum. And so there's a dynamic nature of it. Right now, you might feel like you aren't able to spend a lot of time, and maybe you're going through your own process, and that's okay. And know that that might change. It's never static. It can be dynamic. Maybe you get to the point where you do feel like you have more capacity, and that you can and that you're able to actually show up for them. And so it's the swinging of the pendulum to say, this is the way that I need to relate with it, or this is the way I need to relate with it. Right now, that's the way that you're feeling, and it might change, later on. And so understanding that it is dynamic, and what you're feeling right now is probably right, but being open to that changing. All right. Well, I see a couple comments coming in about the replay, and we will make the replay available. I'm pretty sure you'll be emailed for it, but thank you so much for those that stuck on this to the end. I really, really appreciate it, and I hope you got so much from it. I hope you can feel the amount of love and passion that I have for this work, and the level of integrity that we hold for this. And it is a massive part of our mission to just get this out into the world, because I truly feel that it's so necessary. It's so necessary. So we're doing our part the best that we can. I love you all. I hope you have an incredible rest of your Sunday. You could think of maybe taking the rest of your time to be in church. For me, church is amazing, and the body is your temple, and the temple is where you worship. So go do whatever feels good for your temple, if you are able to, the rest of the day. I cannot wait to dive in with you tomorrow as well. I love you, and I will see you soon. Pass it back over to Nadim. Thank you.
Jaggers, thank you so much, brother. That was beautiful, and I'm really shocked that we went 2.5 hours today, and hundreds of people are still on. This is really cool, and a testament to what people are asking for and are interested in. For everybody that has to go, we are wrapping up right now. I might send you a message after this, just asking to share any feedback. It's like one question, maybe 2 questions, because feedback, it helps our entire team grow. And so if you have 1 or 2 more minutes, it'll be in your inbox. And we look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Again, we have a big day talking about our technique. And for those that are interested in like, what is the difference amongst these breath works, that's when we're diving into this. Tomorrow, historically, day 2 is always one of our biggest days. And also really looking forward to the live conversation podcast with Exhale Boise. So appreciate you so much. We love you, and have a beautiful day.